Commissioner, you know that there's a place for policy making in all of this.
Yes.
Even if, of course, the state governors say, look, we don't have control over the security agencies, for example, operating in our states.
Yes.
But they do have control over policy and how it's implemented. And I want to ask you about that. Taraba has instituted the same open grazing prohibition law that has been instituted in Benue.
Yes.
But they haven't been instituted the same way. In your case, it's a phased implementation, I understand, with the establishment of pilot ranches in the 3 districts. But in Benue, that's not the case. Why do you think there's a disparity between how they're being implemented?
Yeah, why we decided to implement it in phases is because we want to avoid overreaction. And we want to avoid, because a lot of bad meaning has been given to this law. In fact, we were here defending and enlightening people about the provisions of our law. Our law is a bit different from the law in Benue because we had some kind of ranching in Taraba State, that is on the Mambila Plateau, before this time around. And it was the people of the Fulanis and the Mambilas and the Kakas, the people who live on the Mambila, that introduced the ranching themselves. And that is what we are trying to replicate. On the Mambila, you have all that you need for ranching to operate successfully. But once you come to the other parts of Taraba, like the northern part of Taraba and the southern part of Taraba, there is need for some kind of infrastructure. And that is why the government of Architect Dari Dixon Ishaku has decided to face the execution of this law, or the operation of this law. First of all, there has to be the basic ingredients for ranching to succeed, like the grass, the water, the health responsibility. And these are the infrastructure the government is now working to put in place, not just rushing the operation of the law, so that the meanings people are giving to it is somehow one-sided. Just like my friend has said, people interpret all things in Nigeria in terms of either from the perspective of tribe, religion, and or region where you come from. This is unfair for Nigeria to succeed as a nation.
Now, we know in recent days, the Benue State Governor has come out and said, look, Benue people, defend yourselves. You're not going to get help, essentially, from the security agencies. Do you believe that, from the perspective of the leadership, that the responses, the leadership ethos, has been one that would enable peace and kind of a common understanding to take hold in some parts of the country on this issue? Yeah,
with respect to the executive governor of Benue State, I didn't hear if such a thing came from a leader. I'm not trying to condemn any leader, but the laws of Nigeria are totally against self-help. But sometimes the frustration that comes in when things go bad, it makes our leaders, it makes people to say things they don't even intend. Because what happened in Taraba and Benue are things that are very frustrating. People have been crying for this help. It is not good for a leader to introduce, to say people should help themselves. But sometimes, when things go bad, when a leader is frustrated, he says things that he doesn't even intend to say. Maybe that was what happened. But generally, our leaders are supposed to be the conscience of our country.
Now, in Taraba State, as you've mentioned, you guys are implementing a phased implementation of this law.
Yes.
We understand that in Benue State, they have said that in terms of ranches, if you're going to establish a ranch, you cannot buy land on an indefinite basis, but you can only lease it on a year-by-year basis. Do you think that the discrepancy in the way that these laws are being implemented between those two states account for the level of discord within those states, between peoples?
I don't think so. Why I don't think so is, you see, a lot of times we come into agreement with these things. We don't invite the right people. We don't sit with the right people. Benue State governor can decide to come to Abuja and meet thief people in Abuja, living in Abuja, forgetting about the farmers, the thief farmers in Benue that are being touched every day. Another governor can decide to meet Miyetti Allah in Nasarawa State, not going to the bush where the herders are. Bring them together. Everyone must come together, put hands on deck to solve these issues. You don't just form a forum, a retreat with the wrong people. We usually do that. That's what we do. If not, there are brilliant ideas how you can tackle this menace.
The cattle breeders say, look, if you look back at the 1980s, for example, in the plateau, when Fulani herdsmen in particular would be coming down, they would develop settlements on top of the hills and allow their cattle to graze in the valleys in between. That, they just can't do that anymore because of desertification and some of the other factors that have come in through climate change, and that's why they're moving. Do you think that, you touched earlier on this idea that this is both man-made and natural?
Natural.
What do you think is the ratio? How much of it do you think is man-made, and how much of it do you think is being perpetuated by potentially politics or ethnicity and what have you?
A lot of it. A lot of it is being perpetuated by politics. One, maybe after it has happened, we now use politics, put politics into it. Sometimes these are challenges we've been dealing with overnight in Nigeria. We need to live beyond politics in this country. When things happen, we're talking about lives and properties of human beings, lives of human beings. We need to look beyond. We need to be more patriotic. We need to be Nigerians. Yeah. We need to think beyond party when such things happen. So let me tell you, if a Fulani man is touched, you know why there's always an increase in reporting Fulani, 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 and people outside will think as if it's the media that is hyping it. It's not. Let me tell you the problem. The problem is if a Fulani man is touched, he comes back 10, 15 times.
Yeah.
For the reprisal. He doesn't come just once. Just as the commissioner has said, they still go to Numan because of what happened in Mambila.
Yeah.